We don't talk about this enough, and yet this is one of the most foundational skills for acoustic guitarists, strumming. Yep, even as a blues player and even as a die-hard fingerpicker, I think strumming is pretty much a required skill. I mean, at some point, somebody's going to hand you an acoustic guitar and ask you to play Wonderwall, their favorite song, right? But beyond that, it really helps to develop some core rhythm skills that are going to translate to no matter what you play, no matter what style of guitar you play, you've got to have good rhythm at the heart of everything. We're going to break down the strumming part from the latest BGI course called 10 Cent Blues. In the course, we focus on 2 flat pick solos, but it's built on a basic strumming part that's really the foundation, and that's what we're going to take a look at here. Premium members, look for 10 Cent Blues in the My BGI library. Now, let's start breaking this down. The chords we're going to need are A7, E major, E7, B7, and then C sharp 7. Now there's some little melodic embellishments that we do over these chords. We're going to handle those as they come up in the part, but we got to talk about the overall rhythm structure here. And if you heard the opening track, it's a fast pace 4 count. So we would play, if we're just strumming without paying any attention to the dynamics or where we should place accents, it would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or with maybe all downstrokes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We can do better than that. We can get a lot more dynamics coming out of our guitar rhythmically. And one way we're going to do that is play up to the pulse, the boom, ga, 1, 2, 3, 4, and place some accents on 4. And we're actually going to do that not by playing louder or softer, although you could combine that, but what we're going to do is play just the lower notes of our chord. In this case, the A7, we're going to play the 5th and 4th strings together for beat 1, and on beat 2, still a down strum, right? And this is barely a strum, but we're hitting those 2 strings together, and then we're strumming through the top 4 strings for beat 2, and we just alternate with that. See how already we've done something a little more interesting than 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got it. All right, and one little tip that I've got for you. Notice that my thumb is hanging over the fretboard. I am using that not to fret, but to mute out the 6th string. I don't want that 6th string sounding over my A7 chord. I want this A note to be the lowest note that we hear while I'm strumming this. But when you're strumming, you should, of course, try to hit the strings that you're aiming for. So in this case, the 5th and 4th string is a little bit harder. It's just a couple strings. And then the top 4 strings there with a slightly bigger motion, right? But you might bump into that 6th string, especially if you really get into it. So bringing that thumb in, which isn't really doing anything to mute that string, is a little helpful tip for you to help clean things up, right? And then you just hear the chord tones, and we're really getting after that boom chick sound. All right, but now let's explore the rest of the part. I mentioned that we're going to bring on some other tones to embellish the chord. We're going to put the little finger down on the 3rd fret 1st string. Still an A7, we just have the G on top now. Then we're also going to sneak it back to the 2nd fret for the F sharp. We're going to use those notes and that movement to create a little melody on the 2nd measure of our strumming here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And right there, we will change chords. We're going to change from here. Instead of, a down strum on the A7, we're going to move to an E, and then we're going to embellish this E with some E7 tones as well. But let's make sure that we've got that move down. So what's going on here is we set up our little melodic walk down on the 1st string with a measure of our 1, 2, 3, 4, the low and high. For the next measure, where the little embellishment occurs, we start out like that with the low and high, but then on the and of 2, so we've got low, high, and of 2, we do a quick up strum, right? So we're going up through the top strings, and I'm putting the little finger down on the G on the 1st string 3rd fret. Now that's still an A7, we've just got the G in 2 places, the open 3rd string, and now on top here. And then what we're going to do is hold that over beat 3. So you may want to do a downstroke here, and if it helps you keep time, you can do a downstroke or you can scratch through. But what I'm going to do is hold that over beat 3, and then for the end of 3, another upstroke, and move my little finger down to the F sharp. Right, so we've got this sort of quick move. And then finally down, up for our 4th beat there in the end of 4. So after we do our melodic movement over the A7 chord, we're going to move into E, and then at the very end, the way we're going to embellish this chord is by putting the little finger down on the 3rd fret, that D note, making this E major into an E7. But the strumming pattern is really the same, and we're still going to use this dark, light, low, high strumming. So the 2 measures over E are like this. Back to the A7, E7, or E and E7, A again, E again, changing into our B7, but listen, we kept the pattern the same, right? We went down, low, high there. But here we've got a little move that moves us up the fretboard just a little bit. So we've got a little bit of rhythm change here to lead us into that. So that's all we're doing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so back to our E to finish us out. If you learned something from this lesson, please give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. And if you want to go deeper and grab additional materials and dive into that course, then consider becoming a MyBGI member. You can do so at the link right over there. Hope to see you inside. Until then, practice smart and play on.